So once again, welcome to the Trimetrics Healing Training Program. It's my honor and pleasure to share this information with all of you who have honored this time and space to come together and be part of this training. As you know, the brief history of this concept in a way, but I will go through this again with all of you. And if at any point of time, if you have any questions, you can let me know.
Okay.
The Trimetrics word obviously does not exist. There's only one other company that I've found which uses the word Trimetrics, and that company deals with the electronics. So I don't know why they use the word Trimetrics, but there we go. That's the only word I have actually found somebody who is using it. But I think it's very interesting because in all the ancient cultures, the three aspects has been very strong, right? The mind, the body, and the spirit. But also in Christianity, they talk about the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, for example. In ancient Indian literature, they talk about the three murti, which means the three aspects of God, for example. And I don't know if you know that one of the ancient weapons is called Trishul, which is three spikes, which is also a symbol of Shiva in many ways, which is the that aspect of Shiva, where the destructor and the creator, and of course the sustainer of what we exist in this world. So when Trimetrics came forward for me, it was quite an interesting thing because the concept was about the matrix and what makes us as in our reality. You see, so the reality in itself, how do we define it? So how does the reality come into being? Of course, since the ancient times, people have tried to understand the concept of reality. There have been many, many theories about what reality is. Some great teachers have called everything around us Maya. In Sanskrit, Maya means just a mirage. Some ancient teachers have said that this world, this universe, is like in a bowl, and we exist in that bowl. Some have to call it a dream. Nevertheless,
I apologize.
Sure, please.
I apologize. There's some background noise.
Okay,
maybe
so
the connection.
When we don't speak, it's quite clear.
If we mute ourselves, will it be better?
We can try it.
Okay.
Let's try it. Okay, can you hear me now? Is there any problem? Okay, you can actually write. There's a chat room. You can just say yes or no. So just bear with me. Let's see. Chat. Okay. Okay, so Alexandra said it's perfect. Stanislava, you should also have a window for chat, so let me know there's no noise. Okay, Yasin, how about you?
I just want to say it's perfect. I don't know what I did. I think I sent something to Alex. Yeah, it's perfect. I'm gonna mute myself again.
Okay, brilliant. Okay. So the concept about Trimetrics is quite interesting, and it took me about a month or so just to understand what they were trying to tell me in the meditative process. And one thing became clear when they said that the three parts of you, your mind, body, and the conscious state, is the three metrics. And these three metrics are are defined in their own way. The code that defines them is different. And what binds them together depends on any state of time. So for example, in your normal daily state of being, your three states of what you are not necessarily in alignment, okay? And so what happens with that is there's a almost not the perfect alignment. So for example, the mind is somewhere else, the body is somewhere else, and we are totally disconnected from the conscious state. And so their thing was that what you have to do is you have to separate the three. And then what you have to do is you have to bring them together after you have cleaned the code. And when you bring them together, you have to bind them together with the divine code. And that's the final step. So we're going to go through the 4 stages of this thing. And today we're going to have like a preliminary sort of thing where we try to understand what's this all about. Anything around us is a mirage, is a matrix. But what we don't understand is the matrix is quite interesting. The matrix doesn't exist just in the physical format. You know, so let's say if we are seeing a house and we say that is the representation in the physical self, that in itself, yes, it is a matrix. But there's also another matrix to the house. And the other matrix to the house is the mind. And the mind is something like this. In that house is somebody thought of having a house. And because of the thought, in the parallel to where a developer of the property decided to buy a piece of land and to actually make that house. And so there's a mind, a collective mind out there, and that's also the matrix. The house is made with the mind, and that's a different matrix. And then there's the physical side, which is obviously the physical aspect of the house. And then there's the third one, which is the spiritual aspect of it, the conscious state of that house, and what we call the home. You see, you can have a house with bricks and mortar, and basically that's really what it is. Until you bring into it the conscious state, and then it becomes a home. And the difference between home and a house is this, that there's a spirit in that house, right? So in everything that's around us, there are different layers of the matrix, or the matrices, as in the plural, that come together to form everything that's around us, okay? Out here, I just want to say one thing. Because I don't hear you, it also doesn't give me a feedback. And for that reason, I'm going to request you all to turn off your microphones, because I want a feedback that you're understanding. I know it's kind of difficult, but I also want to hear you. Right. Okay, we'll see how this goes. So, okay, I can hear, obviously, the distortions at the back. So who's wearing a headphone and who's not wearing a headphone?
I'm not wearing headphones.
You're not? Okay. Stanislava, are you wearing headphones?
No.
Uh-huh. And Yasin?
I'm wearing headphones just like you.
Okay. So let's try one thing. Stanislava, do you have headphones?
No.
Okay. Alexandra, do you have?
No, they're in my office, so
Okay.
I'm sorry for the situation.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So I'm just trying to think.
I will mute it again.
No, I don't want you to mute it because I want to hear your feedback.
Mm-hmm.
See if it's possible to reduce the volume slightly and see if it's...
Well, I can hear you very clear without any disturbing sound, so I don't know what is the problem. For me, it's perfect right now.
Yasin, how about you?
I can hear almost all of it. It just
there's a crack. There's some sort of background noise, right?
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And Stanislava, how about you?
Just a little bit of background noise.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we'll see if we can work around this, because I really, really want your participation. So I don't want to mute you. So till now, what I've said about the house, does it make sense?
It does.
Yeah. Yasin?
Yes.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes, I think that we have spoke about all those things in some way, so
yes,
it isn't something totally new.
Correct. But what's new out here is that everything around us, the reality that we talk about, is not a simple reality, is a layered reality. There are different layers to that reality, you see? So when you actually start to align them properly, then everything in that reality starts to become perfect. A house becomes a home, and a beautiful home with the beautiful people inside. And at that state of being, it actually becomes a perfect place to grow a lot of things. There are a lot of healing processes take place. People who step into that house feel that harmony. People who live in that house are creating harmony for themselves and for others. And the same thing you can pick up for anything. And so the matrices are very important, that they're aligned, they're clean, and they're put together in the way they should be. So that's just an example, obviously, but that's what trimatrix healing is all about. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through the process of cleaning the three parts of us. And then finally, in the fourth stage, we are going to bring them together in the perfect alignment in the light of the great consciousness. Okay. So this is what this training is all about. Okay. The people who have done this training have had amazing, profound changes. I have a person, to the extent when she went to the, after 2 sessions, when she was at her office and people started saying, you look different. But what's interesting, what they said is that your eyes look different. You see, how interesting is that? But what started to happen in there is that her being, her state of being started to change from her conscious state to her physical state and to the mind state, right? That's what started to happen. Does it make sense?
Yes.
It is. It is. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned the eyes, because I think I've heard something about the old Chinese masters,
right?
Who had something about the eyes. Again, just you can recognize the master just looking at the eyes of the master. It just hit me as a memory when you mentioned it.
And what's most interesting is that you don't need to recognize another person as master. When you start to change, you recognize the master that you are. You see, this is the most interesting thing. Because when you start to change and you look at yourself in the mirror, you see a master that you are. And so this is where we are going. You see, the master that we all are, the forgotten masters that we are, really. We have forgotten ourselves who we are. And going back to that example of the house, this body is our house, right?
Right.
This body is our house, and this body is constituted of three things broadly: the conscious state, the mind, and the body, the physical state. And most of the people are living in absolute separation of these three layers, which really is what it is. God might have given us, when we say the concept of God, let's say, was given this beautiful, amazing body, and yet the mind is not here. There's no connection with the spiritual state. And that's why, you see, what happens is when people fall in love, they don't fall in love with a, for example, okay, when people fall in for a beautiful thing, they don't fall, the true love doesn't fall in love with just the physical state. You see, the physical state obviously is a very state of dishonesty to yourself. But when people truly fall in love, they call the love is blind, but the love is not blind. You see, you're recognizing the true love out there. And so then in that state, you actually fall in love with absolute harmony. That's what happens. So it's not just the physical state, it's all the three states that you fall in love with. You know, you might have seen a beautiful house, but then you look at it and you say, there's no energy in this place. Right? It might be this amazing, beautiful, big house, but no, it's not me. It doesn't connect with me inside me. Right? Does it make sense?
Yes.
And that is what when we look at somebody, and what Yasin said about the master, when you look at somebody and you recognize the master, and the reason you recognize the master, how do you define the master? You see, how do you define somebody as a master? Not just because they had a PhD. You define a master with their eyes, their energy. And so that's how you actually define the master, and you accept them. And you feel this absolute connection from in that state, that actually what you're seeing is that this is really what you are. You're just seeing the reflection of yourself, but you're trying to get there. You see, you haven't got there yet. You're seeing the reflection and you try to emulate the great master. You see, once you've seen the master, then it's very difficult to go back to anything else. Then you always strive to go towards that state of being. And once you start to see the change in yourself, you will never go back to what you were before. Because every time you go back to that state, it's never going to be enough for you. It's like saying, I give you a plate of food, and that plate of food is nothing but empty plate, and you're trying to fill yourself. And you see, once you recognize that part that it is empty, you will not ever go back to it. So trimetric healing training for me is so profound and so amazing, is that it started to change my vision about everything. I know I've been, you see, it'll be very arrogant for anyone to say that they know everything about what the universe tries to show, right? I don't think there is any great master, and even to the extent of the great Buddha and the great Jesus and, all these states of beings, could only understand to a limit the depth of what this universe is all about. And that's where the progression also takes place. The saying about Archangel Michael was once a human, and then he progressed into being an angel, and then he progressed to being an archangel. And they're working towards going forward and more and more and more. And this is how the spirituality is all about. We'll keep on walking and we'll keep on getting to that state where we have to be. Right? So today we are going to talk about broadly about things. I know I've said that there's going to be 4 parts, and I think I should put it clearly to people that actually it's going to be 5 parts, because it's very important to have the prelim before I can put you straight into the state of experience of the 3 metrics, and then finally bringing them together. Okay. Do you have any questions till now? Anything that you would like to ask?
Yes. So, Sajid, I wanted to ask what is the difference between the levels, because I saw that this is the first level. So, what can we expect after the first level?
Okay. So, first level is always the experience. First is the theory, obviously, and then is the experience. Once you have experience to a certain level, we will go to the second level. And the second level is immersion in what you really are. It's very less theory, but more of immersive state. A lot of practical aspect.
Okay.
Right. Because when I was asking about Reiki level 1, essence of Reiki level 1, for me, I wasn't sure what level 2 is going to be. I didn't know. And one day when I was sitting in my meditation, they gave me what level 2 is going to be. And they said it's going to be immersive. Whatever you have learned, it's going to be absolute experience. And that's not going to be over 4 weeks. It's going to be a weekend. But it's going to be so deep and so powerful that it's going to just throw you in the ocean. And you have to start to swim of what you learned. And that's it. And it's so immersive that those 2 days are going to be making you the master.
Can we say that the trimetrics healing is connected with the Reiki? As a practice?
No, it's not.
Okay.
And the reason it's not, Reiki is about just being yourself in terms of the healing processes, right? Trimetrics healing technique is becoming the understanding of the 3 states of beings that you are, and then becoming the manifester of those things. You see, you start to bend the reality then. You see, with Reiki is the healing process, that's different, but with trimetrics healing process, you start to bend the reality, and that's the difference. You start to change the way the things were, not just in the physical format, but in every state of being. And you become a very powerful creator of those things. And you see, at the second level, it actually becomes very powerful. You have to be very, very, very responsible.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. You become very powerful because when you get angry in that state, you will create a nuclear explosion. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's why before you get to that state, we'll have to go through these processes, and we always have to give time, because the universe is going to throw challenges. All right. Recently, and I want to ask you all, so this is a little bit off topic, but I want to ask you something, right? For the last 4 days, I've been seeing a lot of cars with only one headlight, right? I'm driving, and there'll be like one car, and then suddenly after some time, there'll be another car. And I have never in my life seen so many cars in 4 days with just one headlight on. Any suggestions? What it might be? Stanislava, what do you think?
I already told you yesterday my suggestion, so
Yeah. It's crazy, you know. I am no longer in terms in that the universe is not going to start to consciously start to show and make you do things. On Thursday was the group healing session. It was quite amazing because again, I haven't planned it this way, right? So when the group healing process started, they just said you have to start on Thursday. It has to be from the 9th, and it was the 9th of October. Yeah, it was the 9th of October 2017. And since then, it's just been, you know, one after the other. And then it fell on the day of Archangel Michael, which was the 8th of November. What's interesting is he, in the process, the message was that he is going to lead that you know, training, that healing. And I never invoke, I never ask. For me, it's always working with the light. But you know what the funny thing is? I got up at 2:45 and I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to snooze for 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, I suddenly see Archangel's image next to me standing. He's almost like a young man. And he's in a very, very funny state. And he is, you know how Archangel's dress is like, you know, and he's like pulling his things, he's fixing it. He says, oh, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. I'm not joking. This was the actual thing. And so it was so funny to see this great being out there and saying, I'm ready, let's go, the time has come. And when I started the group healing session, and his presence was so strong, he actually led the whole thing. And when I finished it was 4:20 when I finished the healing process, and I went to the kitchen to make tea. And on the oven, guess what the time was? I mean, that time is wrong, obviously, because the oven time is never right, at least in my oven. And the time was 5:55.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
About the same thing, about the synchronicities, and why we see so much of the same, like 11:11, or how kind of it's so frequently. Sometimes it's like several times a day.
Yeah.
It's like no one can get any possible logical explanation. Some of them say message, some of them say something else.
Well, pretty much all I can say is I don't know. That's all I can say. But what I can say is that every time it's like a validation that we are around you, that I'm with you. Just now, before we started, it was 15:51. And as we started, it was 16:16 a little while ago. My phone showed 16:16. So it's quite interesting, especially on Thursdays. I see some amazing things. So all I can say is it's not just limited anymore to 11:11, 12:12, 13:13. It's gone to the extent of even 15:51, 13:31, things like this. So it's actually gone into that synchronicity as well.
Yes.
And if you ask me, I don't know. All I feel is love, and all I feel is connection. So I think for me that's enough. Maybe one day they will divulge it. People have their interpretations. I don't necessarily believe those interpretations.
Yeah.
555, I can go and check. Probably the meaning is there. But anyway, so today we are going to just lay the base of what it is. We're going to go through the process of the matrix of the body. We're going to go through the process of the matrix of the mind, and we're going to go through the process of the what we call the spirit or the soul state. And then finally, we're going to, in the last state, we're going to bind all of them together. Okay. Any questions besides what we have asked till now? And what are your expectations from this course?
Great journey.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely amazing journey for me. So all I can say is I want to share this with as many people as possible, because I think, and I'm not being arrogant out here, I just think that what comes through, I find it very uncomplicated in many ways, very simple. And since you all know by now, I don't believe in chanting mantras and all these things. For me, is the connection with the great consciousness is very simple. You close your eyes, you take a deep breath, and when you do so, there's this beautiful, amazing light of the great consciousness coming through, and you become one with it. That's it. That's, for me, that really defines everything. You can go around in circles for doing different things, and the result will be the same. So why not do it simply? I guess some people like dramas. I don't. I like simple things. So this is the way I teach, and I share my experiences. And if you want it more complicated, I can make it more complicated, but I don't have any formulas for it. Okay, let's do a small meditation to start with, and so we will.
Okay.
You let me know also if it's too loud or too. Okay. How's the volume?
It's okay for me.
Perfect.
Yeah. Stanislava?
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Take a deep breath. Let it go. In this space and time, I want you to imagine in the eye of your mind that there's a beautiful golden white light shining from up above. Coming down in a beautiful beam. Passing through your crown chakra. Through your head. You can feel it going down through your spine. Its radiance. So beautiful that you can feel your spine glowing as this beam of light moves down and down into your spine. This beam of light has an amazing feeling. You can feel the coolness and the warmth at the same time. So breathe in and breathe out. With every breath that you take, this amazing golden white light coming from up above, passing through your crown chakra, down through your spine. It starts to expand throughout your body. You can feel the expansion of this light throughout your body. As it passes through, down, through your legs, your arms, it fills your chest, your abdomen, and with each breath that you take, this amazing radiance, this glow of the light, you start to become one with it. It's getting brighter. And brighter. Your whole body is glowing. This amazing radiance. In this state of being, you become the being of light. So breathe in and breathe out. Like a ball, the light that comes through you starts to expand. Becoming bigger and bigger. Stay in this consciousness. As you breathe in and breathe out. And with every breath, you become once again the state of being, the being of light. There is no physical state. In this time and space, in the now, you are this amazing light. You always were. You are. And you always will be. This being of light. Stay in this consciousness. As you take a deep breath, and let it go. And when you're ready, you slowly open your eyes and continue to stay in the state of being of light. Everyone okay?
Yes.
Did you follow?
Yes.
Yeah.
We did.
Yasin?
Yes, perfect. Very powerful.
Okay, good. So this is where we're going to start from. And this is where we're going to end in the third state, but in a very different aspect. Okay. I want you to continue to experience and to be the body of light. I want you to be in the state of light from now on till this life takes you. Okay. Every time you move from this state, you will take a deep breath and you once again will come back to it. Okay. It'll take a little bit of practice, but it will become. Okay. Right. So how do we define body?
Receiver.
How do you define the physical state in anything, really? What is
You
physical?
define the body in every move that you make.
What is the physical state? Yasin?
I think it's just one more projection of the way we see the energy, the energy, and I don't know, just projection of our own mind, just reality, which is made by our own minds.
Right. So the physical state of being is a projection. It's only felt through the senses that we have, right? Yes?
Yes.
Without those senses, we don't really feel those things. So for example, to see something, we do need the eyes through which the neurons, the photons pass through the nervous system, and then they go to the back of the brain and they form an image. The same as with sound, and the same as for smell, and same as the touch, and so on and so forth, right? The physical state is only experienced through the senses. And if you don't have the senses, does the physical state exist? That'll always be a question. It's like asking, what does cyanide taste like? I don't think anybody lived long enough to say, what does cyanide taste like, right? And so the thing is, what is the physical state of being? Now, to answer this, I think we have to go and ask a question to a physicist or to a scientist who are very proud that they create so many things and the scientific way is the only way, right? Fair enough. My question to them would be only one thing, that I give you nothing and I want you to make a cake. Nothing. There is nothing, and you have to make a cake out of it. Alexandra, I know you can make a good cake, right? I know you're good at it, but I'm not going to give you anything and I want you to make a cake. Can you make it?
I can make it only in my mind, but in the physical world,
right.
Unfortunately.
And you don't have access to anything. You actually cannot have anything, but I want you to make a cake. Right?
Right.
I can imagine Buddha saying, the great Buddha saying to someone, all the things that you've destroyed today, if you knew that you cannot create them, would you even destroy them then?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the great Buddha would have asked this question to somebody. So from nothing, we cannot create any, something, right? So when the question comes about the Big Bang Theory, and they talk about that, oh, okay, well, there must have been gravitation before that. Well, where did that gravitation come from? Of course, they cannot answer. They have the theories and so on and so forth. It was a very interesting conversation they were having recently, which I was listening to physicists, and they was talking about, so there must have been light before the Big Bang Theory. But you see, what is light? Light is the particles, the photons, which are very intelligent. So there must have been intelligence. So if there's intelligence, there must have been an intelligent mind, right? So if there's an intelligent mind, which means there was something. So what was that something that created everything? Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
I can hear you, but you're
Breaking up.
yes.
Okay. Which part didn't you hear? Because I just
No,
saw
I
the.
heard everything, but your image is asleep.
Aha. Oh, it's not coming to you, the image? Not that you
No,
need to see me, but
coming, but
okay.
it's to make a photograph for
Aha.
a moment.
Okay. Is it better now?
It is okay.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Yasin, does it make sense?
Yes.
Right. So going back to what Yasin had initially said, that obviously this is just a creation of a energetic form, which is the correct thing. It really is. Like the physical state of being is actually the creation of that part. Now, think of yourself, right? Think of yourself, Alexandra, as you are. Think of yourself as Yasin, as you are, Stanislava, as you are. But I want us to go back to that point of time when, just before conception, that there was a decision taken with the elements to decide what Alexandra is going to look like, what Yasin is going to be, what Stanislav is going to be, what I'm going to be, right? Going back to the analogy of a house, obviously you can't just make a house without the plans. For the plans to happen, there has to be an intelligent understanding of it. You know, the piping, the electricity, the everything, right? So for that thing to happen, there must have been an intelligence. Agreed? So for that intelligence to exist, there would have been a mind. And for that mind to exist, that means there was something beyond all these things. Right? So what is body? The physical state of being. The body is a formulation of energetic particles. And we know that in our intrinsic self, we're nothing but trillions of atoms which have come together to make what we are. And go to the point that from this whole universe, that the first atom that came through, the first atom that decided that it was going to come for you, this formation of that energy, and then it brought together everything else to make you what you are. And 80 to 90% of these atoms actually stay with us through the lifetime. They stay with us. How amazing is that? And as we progress in life, and this is where the interesting part comes, is why, going back to what Yasin had said, the eyes of the master. When you connect with a great consciousness and your pure inner self, you become the master. And at that time, when you look at yourself and others look at you, your eyes are the eyes of the master. You see? That is the simple secret. No matter how many times you chant, a mantra will not make you a master. But the time that you have the epiphany of the word of a mantra, actual word, for example, Om, you will actually become the master. And you might have read the whole scriptures, you might have read the Bible millions of times, and the Vedas and so on and so forth will not make you a master. It's that connection, that spark that comes in, which we call the wisdom. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Any questions?
No.
No? Yasin, any inputs?
Oh, it makes sense about the sparkle from the great consciousness, because such thing, I mean, that's the source. Yes. It definitely makes sense.
For example, if you take Archangel Michael, right? If we did not exist, was there work for Archangel Michael to do? Right? So everything in this universe, the creation of the great consciousness, has a purpose. And the purpose is to go to the next step, right? And the next step is always the harmony. How much harmony can you get inside yourself to create the perfection why we are here, right? That is the purpose. Harmony doesn't have a limit, you see.
The vessel is small.
Sorry?
The vessel is small.
Yeah. It's a continuous process, and we will keep on experiencing it as we keep on moving into the thing. And that's where the trimetric healing process differs from Reiki, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reiki is a healing process. It's amazing. But trimetric healing, what I've realized, is takes you to another level, totally different. So we can do a small exercise today. So we'll make the groundwork for next time. Okay?
Okay.
And going back to your physical state wasn't there before the intelligence or the intelligent mind decided that it was going to be there. You see? And once the intelligent mind decided that you were going to be there, you were there. And the day the intelligent mind decides that you no longer need to be here, you will not be here in that physical format. There's a very interesting postulation of Einstein. Einstein talked about that if we could travel with the speed of light, then there would be no concept of time and space. In fact, we'll bend time at that time. And so one of the things which he mentioned, and this experiment has been done, by the way, there's a microorganism which lives for about 3 to 4 seconds. It literally lives only for 3 to 4 seconds. When they put this microorganism in a very fast, high-speed vehicle, it lived for a very long time. Does it make sense? So what happens is when we go to the intelligent state of the super intelligence, when we are meditating, at that time, everything stops. There's no time and space the way as we know as the human self. And that's where we start to create miracles. And that's why trimetric healing process is going to create miracles. Any questions? Because at that point of time, you're going to start to create, not just for yourself, but you're going to start to bend a lot of things. Any questions? Everybody's so silent. I feel I'm not talking to anyone.
I'm just thinking about it, that's why.
When you go, and I'm not talking about, I'm not going to, you see, how to explain this? There's meditation, and then there's meditation. There's a lot of commercialization of a lot of things, like yoga, for example. It's a very commercialized product now.
Mm-hmm.
Yoga actually has nothing to do with the physical self. The physical self is the exercise. Yoga really is a connection between the spirit, which is you, and the great spirit. That's what it's all about. And yet everybody has become a yogi, and yet they do not know themselves. Everybody who is bendable, flexible, has become a yogi, and that's really sad. Also, the meditation has become very derogatory. For me, it's almost like, what is meditation, right? Meditation is when you connect with your most inner self and surrender to the great consciousness. You don't need a beautiful sunset. For me, always the question is that if you're such a great yogi and meditator, if your circumstances aren't right, let's say you're very cold or there's a situation you cannot see a beautiful sunset, can you always be connected? And so meditative process where we are going to go with the trimetric healing is that you will constantly be in that state, no matter what it is. And that's the true meditation. And so one of the things that you'll benefit from the trimetric healing process, the training, is that I want you to get to that stage where you don't have to consciously say, you know what, I need to sit for 1 hour meditation. Your whole, from the moment you close your eyes to the moment you open your eyes, you're constantly living in that state of meditative process. You will start to see everything in the 3 layers, everything. The tree out there, the car out there, the person in front of you, you'll see the 3 layers and you look at them and you will take a deep breath and you will recognize that energy and you will pass, because when they look at the master that you will become, what will happen, Yasin? When they look at the master, what will happen to them?
Oh, miracle will happen.
Exactly. And they're going to say, oh, we feel so good in your presence. Meeting you brings us change. Please come to our shop, because every time you come to our shop is full of people, right?
Yes.
This is where we're going to go with this. Okay. Okay, so let's do a small exercise, and then you can throw me any questions and we'll talk about it. Okay, so let's take a deep breath. Let me put some music also, which I forgot. Just bear with me, sorry. I'm just working on my Apple MacBook. And again, I want any of you to describe to me what 3 parts do you think Apple MacBook is? Or any computer, doesn't matter. But let's say in this case, this laptop, what I'm using.
Another kind of projection of another sense.
Yes.
Like my hands, say, or my, I don't know, something like this.
Sure. Yasin?
I'm not sure I heard the question. I'm sorry.
Question, right. Okay. So what do you see when you look at a laptop, in this case, MacBook? What do you see? The 3 parts, what do you see? Take the example of the house. And what do you, if you take the example of the house which I described?
It's just the shell and then the information inside and just that.
Right.
I'm sure I'm missing something. So.
Sure. Okay. No, that's fine. Alexandra?
Well, I'm not sure also what I have to say, but it's a way to connect to someone.
Yeah, no, okay. So my question was this: what do you see? Because this is where we're going, right? Anything that you see, you have to see the 3 parts.
Okay.
You separate the 3 parts, and you go through the process where you'll actually, sometimes even with them without realizing them, you will clean the 3 parts and bring them together. So what are those 3 parts that you will see in a Apple laptop, for example?
So perhaps first is the brand, because the brand is an idea nowadays. The second one is the tool, and like the product, the laptop. And the third one is the energy, because it provides you to communicate with someone who is in totally different place.
Sure.
I don't know, this is just an example of
Okay.
the 3 layers.
Sure.
That was surprisingly hard question.
Well, okay, so think of it this way, right? First, there was an idea from an intelligence, and that was Steve Jobs, right? So Steve Jobs thought
Oh,
about,
okay.
right? So here in this computer, we have the mind of Steve Jobs. Through the idea came the physical structure of it, and also the mind, which in itself is the state of beings in this computer, for example, right? But in the parallel, what's interesting is the reason Steve Jobs' mind is here is also a collective mind, you see, because a lot of people, he said, I need to make a beautiful laptop because the people out there who deserve beautiful things, and there were people out there who thought beautifully, and they said, we want a beautiful computer, which is not Windows, for example.
Yes.
And so you see, everything out there has these layers. The car, for example, the car is the creation of the mind. Let's say a brand, I don't know, let's take Ford. Mr. Ford, long time ago, had an idea. He said, I'm going to create something called a car. And that car is going to be like this. And then somebody has a projection. They say, I want something like this. And those collective minds collectively created a car. And that car, when you look at it, you see the three states of being: the body, the mind, and of course, the spirit, the energy in it, right? And the energy in this laptop is amazing. And the same would be for anything out there. So when you look at any state, look at Sofia as a city, right? There are three things that you see. Sofia as a city, you see three definitive things. You see the physical structure, the mind, and the energy, right? Does it make sense? So obviously somebody actually had, the intelligence state had that, well, there is going to be, we want to make this city called Sofia. At some point of time, that mind created the city, right? In the physical state. And then followed obviously the energy in that, because the energy started the whole thing. The mind thought of it, and then the physical structure came. Today, when you look at Sophia, it's exactly the same thing. There is this energy that is created through the mind, the physical state of being what Sophia is today. Does it make sense? So what I'm trying to drill in is anything that you pick up, you're seeing the three states of beings in everything that's around you. Your relationship is the same exact thing. It's actually the three states of beings, right? Can you have a relationship with absolutely nothing? No, you can't. You still have a relationship with something out there, right? So for example, let's say our great-grandfather or grandfather, I don't know, in this case, I don't want to make anybody emotional, so I'm going to give that example so that at least people who have passed over, you think that relationship has ended? It never ends. And the three states of being actually exist. So when you think about your grandfather, you actually think of that person in the physical format, yes or no? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
You feel that energy of that grandfather or grandmother, right?
Yes.
And the mind that they were is what you are today. You see, the mind that they were, our ancestors, because of them we are here, because of their energy and of their physical state of being. I had read a very funny quote, and the quotation was quite interesting. He said, the person who died, a virgin, was the last person in the lineage of that family, right? It absolutely makes sense, because somebody who died, who doesn't have any children anymore, their lineage has finished. It's gone, right?
Right.
So that was the question. Does it make any sense? Any questions before we go to that exercise? Give me an example.
After
Come
the
on, I want to
example,
hear.
it's better.
I want to hear an example. Yasin, give me an example of anything and then describe the three things.
Well, I think I can understand what you're saying, and it's really hard to word exactly so
Okay.
I can describe that.
Okay. Well,
But
let's put it this way. You go. What kind of food do you like, Yasin?
oh, how kind of? Maybe Italian?
Italian. Okay.
Maybe Italian, yeah.
Italian. So let's say you go to a restaurant and you order spaghetti bolognese or something like this. What you like?
Okay, okay.
Describe the three things that come in front of you.
So apparently there's someone who initially made
Right.
that food like a talk,
Yes.
they discovered that food. Then of course there was the products inside who was made like
Yes.
structure, and of course we cannot argue that the bonus has a spirit because it's very delicious.
so, so the energy in that food, you realize that, right? So when the food comes to you in a restaurant, what is
Yeah.
one of the first things that you realize is that energy that you actually feel that, yes, this is good stuff,
Yeah.
this is actually good stuff. Yeah, you feel this? You go to a place and you actually feel that thing, isn't it? You feel the energy, and that energy, the intelligence, the mind that brought that physical state of being. Does it make sense now a little bit?
A little bit,
Yeah.
much more. Yeah.
Much more, yeah. Alexandra, does it make sense?
Yes, it does. It does.
Yeah. Stanislava?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. So as we keep on getting examples of this, the more we live into it, you will start to realize that what you are today is this state of being you call the intelligent, the conscious state that brought the body together and the mind, obviously, what created what you are today. We cannot blame anybody else of what we are today, right? Physically, emotionally, structurally, relationship-wise, anything, for example, right?
Right.
The master that we are, we can stand in front of the mirror and look into our eyes, and we can state what we are. Eyes don't lie. They do not lie. And the more you keep on going through that state, the more you will start to see the master who's waiting out there for him to come out, or her to come out, being politically correct. Right? And that's the amazing thing. And this is what Trimatrix is all about. This is what the Trimatrix healing technique is all about. And this is why it's so powerful, that it will shred the layers apart, understand each of those layers, redefine each of those layers, bring them together in the perfect state of being, and those three layers in perfect one on top of another in the light of the great consciousness. And then you see the magic happening. You see, when you make a plate of food next time in that energy, from that pure state of mind, with these physical, what we call the body, you know what? You'll create miracles anybody who eats that food. Agreed? Yeah. A child. I know, Yasin, Alexandra, yet you don't have children. Me and Stanislava, we have our extensions. We have our extensions as our children. And these children are our extension. They are the extension of our energy, or of our mind and our physical state. Without these three things, these extensions would not be there existing today. And that's a fact. So no matter how much no matter where we go, no matter what you see in this state of being, you will see those three things. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. If it's too scary for you, now is the time to jump ship.
No way.
Okay. So let's do this exercise and then we'll wrap up. Okay. Can't keep forgetting. Is it too loud? Is it better now?
Yes, now it's better.
Perfect.
Okay. Take a deep breath. Let it go. You, this amazing being of light, radiating the glow of this golden white light. Like a diamond. You shine in this state of being. So breathe in. And breathe out. You, this conscious state, you, the light, in the presence of this amazing light that comes up from up above, shining like a diamond. As you breathe in, and breathe out. This amazing glow and radiance of what you are. Everything around you is light. In this time and space, just you and the light of the great consciousness. There is so much completion. There is a stillness, and yet everything exists in perfection of this light. There's a completion of every need. So breathe in and breathe out. And stay in this state of light that you are. In this perfect state of being, as you breathe in the light of the pure consciousness, and with every breath, in the eye of your mind, start to create the physical state of you. As you want, as you would like. And as you do so, you can begin to see the formation of what you call the physical state of being. Your eyes, your face, your hair, in the state of pure time and space. In the presence of this amazing light of the Creator, you continue as you would want your physical state to be. This amazing body of light that you are starts to be surrounded by the physical self. Your whole body starts to form. As you breathe in and breathe out. Take your time. As you complete yourself in the physical, in the perfect being that you are. The body of light that sits surrounded by the physical state. Stay in this consciousness. Take a deep breath and let it go. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes, but continue to stay in the consciousness of you, the body of light, sitting in this physical manifestation we call the body. Everybody okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you follow?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, good. Right. So this was the preliminary thing that we had to do. It was important because to go to the next steps, we have to, understand what trimetrics is all about. And I hope you understand the depth of it. The depth of it is so deep that this process is going to be forever. You see the difference, going back to what Alexandra had asked me before. Reiki is a healing process. Reiki is different. I'm not saying it doesn't have depth. It is a healing process, a definitive healing process, right? Whereas Trimetrics is the continuous process of the creation and recreation and redefining and manifesting different things, right? Imperfection, till the point you will reach where you do not need to do anything. You just become, in your presence, you become the master and everything is created. What I do want to say is, first there was one, then it became two, and then the mind followed. And this is what Trimetrics is all about. First there was one, the one that came through the great consciousness, our spirit. When the spirit decided in the intelligent form of the pure state of being to create the body, and once the body was there, then depending on our needs, as the body grew, as a child, the mind of the child is in food when it's a baby, right? That's where the mind is. In fact, if you want to find the mind, follow what you want at that state of time. If it's minus 10 degrees outside and you don't have a jacket, where do you think your mind is? Where will be the mind when it's really cold outside? Any answers?
Mind is in the need of warmth.
Right. So if you want to find your mind, you need to find your desires, right? So for example, when you're hungry, we know where the mind is, right? When you're in love, we know where the mind is.
Right.
Why is the human need never complete? Because the mind is running after things which will never complete in the physical state. Why do we need 10 pair of shoes when one pair of shoes can actually suffice us? Why do we need, anything beyond what satisfies us? Yet the society and the human nature has been ruled by the mind. And the mind is based on the desire. And the desire is the disconnection from the layers. And the layer is, how much does the body need, right? When you're connected with that pure state of being, which we call the master state, our spiritual state, then we come to say we don't really need anything much. And so this is where the problem in the society also comes. And you see, we become the harbingers. We actually become the creators through Trimetric healing process, where we start to awaken the masters, not just in ourselves, but with everybody around us. Yeah? Any questions? Okay, well, I want you to give me your inputs. I'm not going to, sorry, I don't know where did this come from. Sorry, just bear with me. Okay. Okay, so we're going to end the session soon because this was the prelim and I hope you got something out of it. But I want you to give me a feedback. I want you to tell me what you understood and what you didn't, because the next step is going to be obviously going much deeper.
Well, I like the idea that it's a process of creation, but I think that I have to see the video from this session one more time so I can be more specific. But I think for now, I got the main idea.
Okay.
And perhaps I will write you and have some more questions, but I have to think about it really, because somehow I have discussed some of the things with you, and somehow there are a lot of new things for me. So yeah, I have to transform the information and then receive it.
Yeah, absolutely. What I want you to work on is nothing else. You can pick up examples, and I think over the next 7 days you pick up examples, and I want you to go ahead and try to define the 3 states of beings of anything. Okay.
Okay.
You can start with yourself, obviously, if you want, because we are the most complex things. When we see other things, it becomes easy for us. So I guess you can pick up something else out there and just sit in your contemplation, and just have a look at it. You see, everything that's come through the natural state is an amazing thing, isn't it? Look at this, right? The rose flower, right? How amazing is that? The three parts of that rose. So there was that energy in that rose pulls us towards us to say, whoa, what a beautiful flower, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what's that mind that created that flower? Well, what was that thought that created that thing? And then the physical formation happened. So there are three things to it. The body of the rose, amazing. Without the energy into it, that rose won't be what it is. But obviously something out there, intelligent thing, decided that this was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think everybody remembers, I don't know if you remember, but once there was a beautiful person who was very ugly. Do you know the story I told a couple of times before? If not, it's very simple. There was a beautiful person who was very ugly. And everybody would look at him and say, whoa, a very beautiful person. But then when they would come closer and feel the energy, they say, oh, he's a very ugly person. Because this person didn't love, didn't share, didn't give, very self-centered. So although physically he was or she was beautiful, there was no energy. The mind was totally corrupted. And then there was a very not so good looking person, well, say ugly person, who was very beautiful because that person gave, and everybody loved that person. You see, that's the energy and the mind in that thing, in the physical state also, how it changes it. And this is where you become the master. You transform like this, where people have seen you for a long time as you are, to the state where you become the master, and they say, wow,
Yeah.
Before nobody wanted to be with you, and now everybody wants to be with you. That's the transformation, and that's the three parts of it. Yasin?
I think it's going to be great responsibility to become such.
Well, the more you know, the more responsible you become.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, we have before such discussion with the teacher, and I believe so. It's going to be great responsibility. In the same time, it's going to be amazing opportunity to be just part of that, and to be able, as you say, to bend everything around you, and just with the love of the great consciousness, to just
it is going to be transformative.
Perfect.
I don't think there will be any choice anymore to say, oh, my house, in my house I don't feel good. Well, it's your house, but why don't you feel good is the energy that exists in that house, right? As an example, the work is the same thing, the other situation is the same thing. My food doesn't taste great. Well, food is just a physical. Where's the energy? It was the mind that created it, right? Stanislava?
Maybe this is one of the reasons I'm a good cook afterwards.
Of course.
We have to see that. I mean, we have to we have to check that to be sure.
Next, when we see something.
Bravo. So please let me know. Stanislava, would you like to say anything before we close?
No, I'll write to you afterwards. I have something in mind, but it will take time. Thank you.
Okay, most welcome. Okay. Yasin, Alexandra, thank you so much. God bless. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. It was amazing.
Thank you. And we'll talk soon. So obviously we're gonna be doing this every week. So next Saturday again, and then following Saturday. So that's how it's going to be. I am going to upload this video to YouTube. I'm going to make a special separate folder, so nobody else can see it, only people who are participating in it.
Okay.
Give me your suggestions as well, and let me know how else you would want it. What else can we do to make it more interesting? I don't know how else to put it.
It's very interesting. It's just a little bit more complicated. That's why
you're going into the PhD stage right now, so it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh no, we won't see. You are graduating, my friend. You are. With top colors. There's no C anymore. We're gonna get you there. Okay.
I'm joking. Okay.
I know. All right.
And there's
Take
going to be
care.
food. And there's going to be food at the
Yeah,
end.
exactly.
Oh, Stanislava's food, of course. Okay. Have a beautiful evening, everybody.
Have a beautiful evening. Thank you so much.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.